Welcome, everyone, and hello, howdy, how are you? Good day. We are here today for Optimize Your Social Media, an educational webinar, and it's being brought to you today by the North Metro Small Business Development Center, and with special thanks from Brighton Economic Development, and the Greater Brighton Chamber of Commerce. So definitely thanks to our sponsors. My name is John Hovey, and I'm the Special Projects Coordinator with the SBDC. I'm here today with our esteemed presenter. Very proud to present to you, Peter Brissett, the digital marketing dude and CEO. And yeah, we're going to be talking about everything you need to know for your small business to optimize your social media. It's going to be great. A few things to know before we get rolling here. You have, all Zoom privileges, so you can use your webcam today. If you'd rather just listen and not have your webcam on, that's fine. If you want to ask a question at any time, there's a couple ways that you could do that. You could go ahead and just turn on your microphone and ask the question, and we'll try to do that. There's also a button where you can raise your hand metaphorically, or if your camera's on, you can raise your hand physically, and we'll try to answer your questions as we go along. So that'll be just great. There's also a chat, and I'd like you to go ahead and find the chat feature right now. And if you wouldn't mind, just type in real quick your name, your business name, and where you're from. We're very interested in what city you're from. Our different partners are very excited, especially Brighton, if you're from Brighton today. So go ahead and add your name, business name, and city to the chat. That'll be a nice way to introduce yourself. We've got 45 people on the call today, so we won't have enough time to go around and do intros for everybody with your voice. Last thing I'll say, and then I'm going to turn it over to Peter, is that we are recording this session today. And so everything that we do is going to be recorded, and I will send out a video a little bit later today that has that recording, and I'll make sure that those handouts are attached as well. So without further ado, Peter, take it away.
Okay, welcome everybody. I'm going to be talking some social media today. Thanks again to Brighton EDC, Brighton Chamber for sponsoring this event. Happy to be talking to you. So a lot of new folks and new faces I see here, but I also see some, I was going to say old faces. Not that your faces are old, people I've seen before. So great. I got offending people out of the way early. That's good, John. That didn't take long.
Good job. Good job.
Okay. So good to see some familiar faces in the audience. If I know a couple of you did go through our digital marketing boot camp that we did a few months ago, we're going to highlight some of that information again here today. And talk about that and kind of dig into some of the key pieces of that. So what we're going to do, we're going to go through a little bit of content. We're going to talk some strategy. We're going to talk about content. We're going to talk about social media. Whatever questions you have, please feel free to pop those in the chat or raise your hand or unmute yourself. That's fine. We'll answer those questions as we go. We'll also take some time to break you guys up into smaller groups so you can kind of take some time to discuss and talk about your particular marketing, your social media, what you're doing, your ideas, and you guys can work with each other a little bit to give each other feedback and share your ideas with each other as well. So we'll do that as part of the training here today as well. So thank you everybody that's on here. I was just scrolling through to see some of the many different businesses. So a lot of local businesses, brick and mortar for the most part, it looks like, which is awesome. So we'll try to tailor things that way for you guys. So awesome. Okay. Let me see if I can share my screen here. And we will dig into this right now. Let's see what we can do here. There are so many people. I'm used to being able to see all the faces. I cannot see all the faces. My monitor is not big enough for that today. So over the last 10 plus years that I've been doing digital marketing and digital marketing consulting, these are kind of the categories that people have the most frequent questions. And so I've developed training over that time frame. The first piece that we have to talk about is always strategy. Strategy is the thing that really determines the why around what we're doing. And once we know the why, then we can determine the how, or what is the tactics that we need to do. So there's a big difference between what is strategy and what is tactical. Strategy is all about the why. The tactical is, how do I implement that why and make that why happen the way that I want to and achieve the goals that I have. So we'll talk a little bit of strategy first and make sure we cover that. We've sent you a document that's a super detailed questionnaire, and I'll reference that again here in a little bit and kind of give you some highlights. You have homework, by the way. I don't know if you knew that. You have homework, a lot of homework. There's some really key questions in that, just so that you guys know, like that document alone, when I go through that with a client and we work on their marketing strategy, that project for us is a $2,500 project that we charge. That's where it starts. So that document is the basis of that particular project that we do. Just so you know that's the level and degree that we use that particular document for. So take that document, use it as a great tool to help guide you in developing your marketing strategy for everything, not just social, but for everything that you're doing. It's going to be a good tool to help you with that. So you probably have heard of the 4 Ps of marketing. So in general, the 4 Ps are product, price, place, and promotion. So those are general marketing school 4 Ps. So my mentor taught me the 4 Ps a little bit differently. And so I want to share those with you. We'll talk about those in how you create your strategy. So we're going to talk people, problem, process, and then passion/personality. So the first key for you in developing your strategy around social media, any of your marketing, is who is your target market? Who is it you're going after? What does your ideal client look like? And most of the time, if you guys already have clients, you can just look at them and figure out who your ideal client is. Who loves you the most? Who gets the most benefit out of using your product or service? Who do you help the most? What does that ideal client look like? There's always going to be varying degrees of that, but you kind of want to begin to build a picture of what that ideal client looks like so that you know how old they are. Are they male or female? Do they have a family? What kind of career do they have? What's their thought process? Like, what are their fears? What are their concerns? How do they think about things? What are books that they read? What are magazines that they read? What are the other activities that they do? Are they a hiker? Are they a runner? Are they someone that rides motorcycles? Like, what are the different things that make up this ideal client? So you better understand them. So when you start using social media to market to them, this is data that's being collected. So I don't know if you've been on Facebook. Facebook collects a lot of information around you, right? It's building a profile of who you are, the things that you like. And so that data for you is important to figure out for your ideal client. So if you haven't asked your clients some of these questions, you should ask, right? Create some surveys, ask them some more details about those types of questions. So again, it can be very individual. If what you do is market more to companies, then what's that company profile look like? And build a company profile versus necessarily an individual profile. So that's the people piece. The problem, what is the real problem that you're solving for them? So a lot of times like, oh, we have this service and this service does this thing, but what is it you're really doing? If you're a yoga studio, what's the problem you're actually solving? Is it just to provide yoga, or is it like we're improving healthcare, like we're actually helping someone recover from an injury or whatever it is? What is the actual problem that you most often solve, and you solve the best, again, for that ideal client? And what does that look like? So the better you can describe this problem and what the problem is and the benefits of solving that problem, that becomes really core to your marketing piece. So what we look at, we'll talk content and website just a little bit here in a little while, but we don't tend to talk about the problem enough. So most of the time when we go visit a website, a particular business is talking about themselves. They're talking about themselves, not talking about the problem that the client is having. Let's talk about the prospect that's visiting your website and go, we understand the problem that you have. Let's talk about your problem. And by the way, here's how we solve your problem. So focus on problem solution in general in your overall marketing, and you're going to have much better results doing it that way. So what are the benefits of solving that problem? And then think about, what are the risks of not solving that problem now? What if I don't solve this problem? What are my other options? Is not doing anything right now an option? And what does that mean? What am I at risk for if I don't go ahead and try to deal with this problem? So then process then is how you uniquely solve that problem. How do you do it differently? So there's yoga studios all over the place. How is your yoga studio different? There's something about you and how you teach it and how you work with people that's going to be unique and different. What is that? What does that look like? So the better you can describe that, and the better you can get that feedback. And I'll talk to you about ways of learning what that is here in a minute. And then another element. So the three: people, problem, process really is the core of the strategy. Kind of the next category is how different ways that you can communicate that. So is this a passion for you? You had some serious health issues, and so you started doing yoga. And so now that you've been doing yoga all this time, you've now overcome all these serious health issues because you did that. So that becomes a personal story, right? You're able to go, hey, this was me, this was my situation, this is what I was able to do. And you can infuse yourself into that story. So that's more of a personality play on your marketing. Again, it doesn't have to be that way. It's just one way that you could do that. So what's your bigger why? What are your values? What are those stories? Are you Jake Jabs, the furniture business? So everybody knows who Jake Jabs is, in Denver, Colorado. Or is there some particular passion around this? Again, it's made such a big impact and change in your life that you have now incorporated that into what you do. An example I give a lot is a gentleman who his mother had slipped and fallen and broken her hip in her bathtub, and she wound up passing away shortly thereafter. So he began looking at the options. His dad was still living at home alone, and he was concerned about the same thing happening to his father. So he started researching different options for a bathtub. And there's different walk-in bathtubs that you can put in. And so his process of doing all this research, he found that there wasn't good information, that people weren't forthcoming and weren't honest about it, and it was a big mess. So he started a new business around selling and installing walk-in bathtubs for seniors. And he shares his story as a part of that. This is what happened to me, and this is why I do this, because I don't want to see this happen to another senior. So that's another way to bring in a passion and a why into your marketing piece. So we talk about different questions, right? And I like P words. So people, problem, process, passion, personality, proof. How can you prove your results? How do you position yourself as different? What makes you unique? And how are you measuring that? So in this document, there's a few things just to highlight for you, and they become more relevant as we go. So understanding your market, understanding your target market, benefits, objections, who's your competition. There's a couple of sections in here that are super important around what we call SAQs. These are should ask questions, and FAQs, frequently asked questions. A lot of people are like, oh, I don't know what content to create. Just look at all the FAQs that you get. What are the most common questions you have around your product or service? And what are questions people should be asking you, but they're not smart enough to know? You're the expert in your space. You're the expert in your industry. What can you be asking, or what should they be asking if someone's trying to look for your product or service? And that becomes content that you can then use and create more content from. The other piece of this is how do you get more information about really what is the problem that you actually solve? And that's following these 6 questions to get powerful testimonials. So I would sit down, I would work with as many of your clients as you possibly can and ask them to answer these questions. You can modify these questions to make it fit your particular service or product. So, they didn't necessarily buy a product, maybe they used your service. So revise it accordingly. But get this feedback, because you're going to find out certain things that you're doing that you didn't realize that you were doing. And that's the real problem that you're actually solving for people. And this becomes really important information that you can use in your content and your marketing and helping develop and build your strategy. So there's some homework for you there. Briefly, I'll talk about your website just from the main aspects. So we talk about, and we'll talk about strategy as related to that too. But one of the things I really try to emphasize is what you own versus what you rent when it comes to your digital marketing assets. So the things that you own are your brand and identity, right? What is my brand, and what is who I am, and what makes me unique? Like that's uniquely you. And all that branding, your logo, all that stuff, that is yours. You own that. You can control that. You can change that, adjust that, do what you need to do with that. You have complete ownership of that. You own your website for the most part. In some cases, maybe you're a franchise or something like that, you don't have as much control. But in general, you own your website, and you have the ability to change that content and make that content awesome there. So when it comes to where should I put money, I try to emphasize put money in the things that you own. So if you can work on branding and messaging, if you can work on your website and make it better and more effective tool for you, put money into that. Ultimately, you own your list. So whether it's an email list or a text messaging list, those lists of names, contacts, that database, you own that as well, right? Those are assets. So when you're doing any kind of marketing, you have to think about, how do I get more people on my list? How do I build my database? Because that's ultimately a piece that you own. What you don't own and what you're renting is space on social media. So as we start getting into social media here in a little bit, specifically, understand that that's rented space. Someone else makes the rules there. You don't get to make the rules. You have to try to play by the rules and do what they want and make it a tool for you. But at any point in time, they can change the rules. So if it's become a good marketing source for you and a good source for clients today, that could change tomorrow. So you have to keep that in mind when you're thinking about what are the digital marketing assets I own versus those that I rent. So that's the quick note on that. So again, let's talk a little bit about content, and we'll dig into the social media piece a little bit more. So content really is core to whatever you're doing, whether it's website, whether it's social. So how are you going to do the content? What content are you going to create? Again, go back to the strategy document. Almost everything that's in your strategy document can become content. Your FAQs, your SAQs. content, core, super important, critical content that you can use on websites, socials, etc. The number one content right now, and the thing that you have to figure out, how do I develop a way to do this, is video. So I've been talking about this for a long time. It's so much more important right now than it has been in the last 6-7 years that I've been talking about it. All of the major platforms, look at Facebook, YouTube, of course, LinkedIn, even Instagram. All of these platforms have re-engineered their platforms for doing video, many for live video. That is how they've re-engineered the platforms, because what they've seen is people consume that video content far more than any other content. So figuring out how to incorporate video into your marketing content is really, really critical. So there's simple videos that you can make. You can go to a site like fiverr.com and have videos created for you. You can use a tool like canva.com that's got a lot of built-in video right inside of it. Like you can create videos inside of Canva. So there's lots of different ways to develop and create video. So it's something that you have to be thinking about and have to take from your strategy and go, how do I use video to communicate my message more from that? So your original content's super important. You can use curated content. Curated content is content from other people in your space, other professionals, industry experts, leaders, things that are inspirational, things that are motivational. Those type of things are good curated content that you can do. And then you have to have a plan. What's my calendar and schedule? So whether this is around your content and around your social, how do I schedule this content? How do I plan this out? And so I have a formula called RFP, recency, frequency, and proximity. So when it comes to social and your content calendar, those things go together. How recent and frequent do I need to be? So this is a common question. Well, how often should I post on Facebook? Once a day, 5 times a day, once a week? What should that be? So again, think about your strategy, your target market audience. What are they looking for? What do they need? And think about how recent do I need to be and how frequent do I need to be to create proximity. So for example, I've done a lot of online dating the last couple of years. Let me tell you a scenario that doesn't work. I go on one date, and on the first date, I'm like, you know what? I like you. Let's get married. What do you think they're going to say? No, unless they're nuts, which happens, right? That happens sometimes. There's crazy people out there. So I could say, I love you. Let's get married on one date. Now, it was recent, like it just happened, but it wasn't frequent. Like there wasn't enough frequency to build a relationship to where someone could say, oh yeah, like we've been doing this for a year or 2 years. And so there's been enough frequency that you said that you love me. And it's now recent that you said you love me. So yeah, sure. Let's get married. So how recent do we need to be and how frequent do we need to be to build a relationship that creates proximity? And my goal is, in my mind and thinking about social, is, how do I get close enough to take the next step with somebody, a prospect or a client? It's like, I'm trying to get close enough for a hug, how do you say it? An appropriate hug. Because again, I don't want to offend people. I'm really good at this, but anyway, how do we get close enough to a handshake or a hug in our recency and frequency and building that relationship in terms of content in our calendar and content in our social media? And how can we plan that out the next 6 to 12 months to do that? Quick note on video. So I do a lot of video. I get it transcribed. So I use a website called rev.com where you can get it transcribed into text. So when you see my blog post, you're going to see a video with a transcription of the content in the video. So I very rarely will write a blog post. I might write a quick outline, but I make a video, I speak it, and then I get it transcribed. So it's really good content for your website and your socials. All right, so let's talk about, now that we've got that basis, what is social media? Like, what is the reason we're using social? This becomes our delivery system. This is how we get the message out. This is how we reach an audience of people with our message. And I haven't been paying attention to the chat or anything. We got questions that have come in, John?
Yeah, there's two in there. Amy wants to know a little bit. We're going to step back before we move to social.
Yep.
Talking about meeting with your clients for strategy information. She says, could you have your clients answer the survey questions after they meet with you and follow up? Do they actually turn it back in?
Absolutely. And I would give them some incentive, like, especially if you haven't really done something like that before with those detailed questions. Like, I would say, hey, I'm going to give you a Starbucks gift card. Like do something to incentivize them, because it's really going to be some valuable information that you're going to go, oh, I didn't realize that was something I was actually doing. So, give them incentive to answer it, give them incentive to turn it back into you. Whatever you can do, and you feel comfortable doing, I would definitely attempt to do that, because it's going to be really powerful knowledge for you to be able to use. Awesome. Do emails actually work anymore? And maybe 10 actually use. So yes, they do. Depending on your business, so an email list of 300 isn't very many. So again, you have to kind of go back. What do I own versus what I rent? So if my email list is 300 and it's pretty much been that for the last 2 years, then you're not building that asset. How can I increase that and get more people on that list? How do I get people off that list? If they're not active, they're not paying attention to my emails, like, get rid of them. Like, get rid of that and get some new people that do pay attention to what you have. So yes, it does work, but it does take some looking at and thinking about, how do I eliminate and how do I add to make it really a more effective tool for you. But absolutely, email still does work. Okay.
That looks like about it. Keep your questions coming in, folks. We do appreciate it. And Amy, if you had 10 sales from 300 emails, that's actually a pretty good result.
Yeah, that's not bad. All right. So what are some things you can do? So the challenge we have on social is making things engaging and engaging our audience and having them interact with us. How do we get them to like, comment, and share? So that's really the judgment of how effective am I being on my social is how many likes, how many comments, how many shares did I get? That becomes your judgment in terms of particularly like a flat platform like Facebook on how effective that you're being with that. Think about a contest. How can you create a contest that engages people? So going back to I don't know why I'm stuck on yoga, and you want to give a free lesson. And so you have a contest, some type of contest, so people can get a free yoga class, whatever it is. How do you engage the audience? How do you start to get somebody that wants to go, oh, this is cool, I want to be a part of this, who's willing to like, comment, and share so that they can get whatever it is you're giving away, and tie it closely into whatever your product or service is as well, of course. So contests are a great way to do that. The rules around contests are pretty loose. There's a lot of different ways you can do those. So really think about that. we've already talked about calendar and frequency and the RFP, recency, frequency, proximity. Again, how often should I post on my socials? How are you building the relationship? What does the engagement look like? Are you moving them closer to an opt-in, to a like, comment, or share? Are they getting added to your email list? Are they scheduling a free consultation? What's the next step that they're taking? And so what are the things you need to do to help them move towards that? So again, here's a lot of different websites that you can do. You can do Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram. Which one should I do? Should I do all of them? Which one are you good at? Like, can you pick one of them that you're like, I've gotten really good at one? And I would highly recommend pick one. So if you know that your audience is on Facebook, then just focus on Facebook and get really good at Facebook before you jump into, oh, I got to be on all these platforms. You don't have to be on all the platforms. It's not a requirement. Again, what's the effectiveness? Is my audience growing? Am I building followers? Is that happening? So, and that's really a key piece. So as you develop your audience, you have to be thinking about, how am I increasing followers and how am I increasing engagement? So if you only have 500 followers of your Facebook page, again, when you post something, if you looked at that, not all 500 are even going to see your post. So unless you're willing to spend some money on ads on Facebook, where you can try to get everybody to see it, but not everybody's going to see it. So how do you create content that's more engaging? And how are you continuously building followers? So this needs to be part of your plan of, okay, I'm measuring these things. I have 500 this month. How do I get 50 more followers next month? And how do I continue to build those followers? And are they the right followers? Are they in the right target market? Are they the right person that's, my potential to be my next ideal client? Do they fit that category? Are those the things that you're looking at? So that's the things that you need to be looking at in order to measure the actual success of what you're doing on your socials. It's not just that you need engagement, you need likes, comments, and shares, but you need to know that you're also building your followers and building that audience. And then how are you taking them off the platform? How are you getting them on an email list? How are you getting them to your website? And being able to get them engaged on your website as well. So your profiles. So it's really important that your profile is completed correctly, that it has all the information filled out. So the tool basically that we've got for you to go through is a checklist for the major sites. And you can go through and do this checklist to make sure that you've got everything updated on your profiles. So really important to have that done. So again, audience development. So if you're using Facebook in particular, we'll just use that as an example. At some point, you're going to need to spend a little bit of money on advertising on Facebook. And Facebook is really built around an audience. How do I target an audience and reach an audience? So the more that you create content and video content that engages your ideal customer, the better. That is what you're trying to achieve. And things like video views. So if you have a video that you posted, how many people watched that video, how long they watched that video, Facebook tracks that, and that becomes audience that you can remarket to later on. So you can create ad campaigns that go, send this ad to everybody that, watched 50% of my video, because that person is much more likely to take the next step. How do I send them to my website? So Facebook's got they call it a pixel. It's basically tracking software. So if you haven't had that added to your website, I would definitely get that added to your website. So now when you post something on Facebook and and a link to your website, they go from Facebook to your website. That builds that audience. So that's starting to develop that audience so people can go, oh, so that you can go, oh, I want to then get them to like my Facebook page. So now I can run ads specifically to people who have visited my website, because now they at least know who I am. They're familiar with who I am. So it's a warmer audience for you to be able to send ads to, versus just sending ads to a cold audience, someone who's never heard of you before. So you're going to get different results from those different ads. So if I'm running an ad campaign to a completely cold audience, I may not get much results. But if I'm building an audience over time of people that have visited my website and I run an ad, they're familiar. They know who I am. It's a warmer audience. You should get much better results from that. So working on audience and developing audience takes work and it takes time. Building followers, engaging them with the right content, all of that takes time. It takes work to be able to do that. And then, of course, there's different tools that you can use in terms of helping you post content and be able to post content more than once. So a lot of people think, well, I posted this piece of content one time this month. So now next month, I'm starting from scratch, from zero. There's nothing wrong with posting good content multiple times. So you could have a really core piece of content, like a frequently asked question. And maybe you post that question every single month on your social. Because again, not everybody's going to see it all at the same time. So there's nothing wrong with reusing good content multiple times. So tools like Hootsuite or Buffer, these are basically web-based software tools that help you in scheduling and building out that information. Good question here. Is that the same for Instagram, targeting your ads towards an audience that has visited your website before? Absolutely. So you do have to do some setup. The question is that pretty easy to find when setting up the ad? You have to create that audience. So that all that's done within the Facebook Ads Manager. So for Instagram and Facebook ads, right? So Facebook owns Instagram. All that's done within the Facebook Ads Manager. You have to specifically set up that audience. So it's a manual audience that you set up. And you have to add that tracking code to your website to do that. So again, part of the thing that we do here is that we have consulting that we can do for you after the fact. So we can help walk you through that. So if you schedule time with me or any of our other marketing consultants, that's usually something we can help walk you through. Tons of videos. If you just go to YouTube and look it up, there's tons of videos that can walk you through that as well. But we're happy to help you, help guide you through that process. What are the names of the two companies that help you with ad scheduling? Well, I do everything through Facebook. There are some tools out there that help you with ad scheduling. So what I'm talking about in terms of the tools, Hootsuite, Buffer, Agorapulse, those are for scheduling content and planning out your content, not so much ads. Ads, when I'm using Facebook in particular, I build all that within the Facebook Ads Manager and use that tool directly for that. But Hootsuite and Buffer are two common tools that you can use for helping you schedule and plan out your content that you're going to do on social. So you can schedule an entire month's worth of social media, within a couple of hours, and then you're done, right? You don't have to go out there every day and plan all that stuff out. So that's the benefit of using a tool like that to help you in scheduling that. Again, we have some more questions that we've sent out to you. So what other questions do you have around social specific for your business? challenges that you had, problems that you've run into, successes, things that have worked well for you. Collecting reviews on Facebook has been almost impossible. All right, Suzanne, I'm going to put you on the hot seat. If you
Sounds
want.
Good.
All right, good. So you're you're a yoga studio. Great.
I'm
I've
a
been talking
yoga
about
studio.
yoga
I love
all
all your
day.
examples.
So talk to me about your process. How are you asking for reviews? How do you do this?
Well, the problem is actually the whole Facebook back end of it. We've changed it a couple times trying to get it set up as a business, because that's a whole other thing of trying to make sure that your Facebook is set up as a business.
Correct.
And then there's all the different types of what kind of business, what are you trying to get, what are you trying to, what's your point basically.
Yeah.
And on that, it won't let me accept any reviews, even though I go in the settings, I click it 9 times a day. It says that I have not collected enough people that says that that I can now start accepting reviews. So it's not even an option. Okay.
So so it sounds like you maybe had a personal profile and then you converted over to a Facebook page.
So it should have always been set up as a business. It's never
as
it
a business
never been,
page.
Yeah. Yes.
So so how many, well, here, what's the name of the studio there?
Flow Yoga Studio - Arvada. So one of the top tabs, you can adjust the tabs to see, okay, what do you want people to see first? You want them to see your posts or your events?
Mm-hmm.
And it won't, none of the tabs, it says reviews up at the top.
Yep.
But I can't,
So
I
you
can't
have 841 people have followers.
Yeah.
Reviews.
And it says I can't, it won't let me send to anyone, do you recommend this studio?
Oh, well, here's how I would do this.
So look at, like, the last time I had somebody recommend was 2020. Like it won't for some reason do it anymore.
I would just grab this link here and I would send this to people. So text it to them, email it to them, whatever you got to do, and just do it that way. So, because it sounds like maybe you're requesting it through Facebook.
Well, the hard part, I think, is because it's my own page, I'm an admin on it. Yeah. I can't get to that page where it says recommendations and reviews. So on my personal admin page, I can't see that anywhere. It would have to be almost like you seeing this, and this doesn't show up for everybody. I think that's the other hard part with Facebook, is that some people they want to see the reviews and some people don't. And it depends on if they're opening up through Firefox or Safari or Google or.
Yeah, got it. Yeah.
So is there any other way I know that we have Google reviews and things like that. Is there any way that those integrate at this point?
No.
Okay.
Completely separate in terms of how the reviews work, but I would send them this link. This is going to be the easiest way. So even emailing this or texting this link to them, so log out so you can just go to your page like any user. Okay. If that's what you have to do, to get to this page, and send them that link and ask them to review you. And again, if you run into some more troubles with this, like, schedule a meeting and let's,
okay,
dig into it and see what we can do with that. So,
okay. Thank you.
Oh
wait, I have another one. So I have another page and I know this one doesn't show it either. Sorry. It says it's Flow Yoga Adventures, and that one I can't get the reviews on either. And again, same thing. It's set up as a business page, or at least it should be. Yeah, that top one. Let's see if it shows you reviews. Yeah, no. So this is what it keeps saying. It keeps saying, I don't have enough recommendations to be getting any reviews. So then I asked a few of the people that have come on trips with me, I'm like, can you send a recommendation? I have no idea how, like, and even some people with those said that they were having a problem with getting onto this recommendation page. So why do I have to recommend versus a review? Do you know?
Well, it's the same thing. So it's, at one point it was called reviews, and then Facebook changed it to recommendations. It's the same thing. Okay. There's no difference. They're just calling it a different thing. They're just calling it a recommendation. Yeah, it's the same thing.
Okay.
So maybe that's just a change in terminology. If you're sending something for Facebook, tell folks, hey, recommend me on Facebook. Because if they're thinking, oh, I didn't see a place to write a review, I saw a place to write a recommendation. It's the same thing.
Yeah. So does this have any, because of reviews and recommendations, does it alter how many people are able to see your post? Does it have anything in the algorithm?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think that this has any connection to that in terms of people seeing your post. That's a completely separate kind of algorithm and how that works.
Okay.
But yeah, so right now it says 0 out of 5.
Yeah.
Do you recommend? Yeah, I would talk to a couple other folks and see if they can, do the recommendation and see. I don't know why that's a little weird.
Yeah. And even that one, I have a couple hundred people following it. So
yeah, you have plenty of people following.
Yeah. Okay.
Let's see here. Same problem, really old reviews. Resent the document. So when a client comes in, gets their service, then asks them to review on Facebook. Yeah, I'd be asking them to review on Google, anywhere that they're comfortable. Yep. Take a screenshot of Google reviews, post them on Facebook. Yep. Fine. Good. Yeah, Facebook Business Suite. Amy.
Yeah, can I just chime in there real quick? I don't know if I just mostly want to see if anybody else has been having this problem, that the Business Suite, they have just been adding on and changing it. I've been having more and more problems with the Business Suite than when it was, less fancy. And that's especially concerning my appointments, trying to find clients that I know that they liked my page, and then I try to set them up for an appointment, and then I can't find them. They're not there. And it's like, I know they're there. So I didn't know if anybody else was having problems with the Business Suite, because I'm about ready to toss the darn thing, quite honestly.
Yeah, I've heard a lot of challenges with people. Even
so it's not just
people
me.
That even people that work in the industry, right, are talking about challenges with getting, like, there's just so many changes here lately that
and to where I'm actually thinking of just looking for a completely different platform, but then I'm like, oh my gosh, yet another thing I have to learn.
Right.
So I don't know if there is some redeeming quality that anybody has, or that it's just me or something like that. But I've just been,
I don't think it's just you. I think it's kind of been a common thing here recently for some reason that there's been some challenges with it. So hopefully, crossing our fingers that they'll get some of that stuff sorted out and that kind of thing. But you probably have to wrestle through it for a little bit.
Okay.
So good question. Let's see. Anyone been able to re-enable Google My Business after it has been disabled? That is possible. I would say schedule a meeting with me and we can look at that and see if we can help you get that corrected. But yes, there should be a way to do it. So as long as you have admin access to it. And if not, we may need to look at other options there, but we can help you with that. Google reviews are huge. We haven't really talked about that. Almost all you guys are local businesses. You want to talk about great content for social and everything, is getting more reviews on Google. If you want to get found more, you're like, get more Google reviews. If you want to go, well, I don't know how many reviews I should have. What does your competition have? Like, how many do they have? So let's, definitely look at that and then go, okay, I need to at least have as many reviews as my competition. And look at it that way. So, okay, John, we've just dumped a ton of information on you guys. We would love you guys to talk about your individual social media, your content, those different kinds of things. John's going to break you up into groups of 3 or 4. We're going to give you about 15 minutes or so to talk about it, come up with some more questions, and then we'll come back and try to answer those questions for you guys specific to your situation, and try to address those. So all right, welcome back. All right, what kind of questions came up for you guys? What can we answer? Or what are some good ideas you got? Like, share that too.
I have a question.
Yep.
So one of the ideas that came up in our breakout was that if a person doesn't have a website established yet and they're sort of pre-operations in their business, they could still begin to kind of get their name out there as an expert in that area. And perhaps they could be doing some posting or some blogging or something, even though they don't have like particular social platforms or their website developed yet. And I was just wondering if you were going to start doing that, would you have to have, I guess you would sort of start your Facebook or start your website to do that? Or is there a way to do that without?
You could totally start a Facebook page before you ever have a website. Yeah, definitely not a problem to do that. I mean, again, you want to get to the platform that you own and have the most control of at some point. But if you just wanted to start doing some stuff and start building an audience and start getting some feedback on what you're doing and doing all of that, heck yeah, start a Facebook page. You know, build your.
I mean, do you think it would be better to like have a one-page website that you just blogging on, or would it be better to start with Facebook?
What kind of business are we talking about?
So it's grain-free bakery products.
I would say find a start on Facebook. I would make sure that you have copies of everything, like in terms of your blog posts and the content, so that you have additional copies of that, just in case something were to happen and Facebook were to go away. You don't want to lose that content. So I would just make sure you have that content. But nothing wrong with getting started with that to start building an audience, get people's feedback, see what their interests are, you know, try to ask questions and get feedback, that kind of stuff. Like, use it as a total research before you decide, what should I have on my website? What do people need to know? You know, so you can begin to get more information, and then you'll have a little better idea what you need to do with your website from that, you know. And again, what are the problems I'm trying to solve? You know, how are we solving it? You know, that type of stuff. You know, go back to, I would build the strategy. Like, you can go do that strategy document, you know, even from the beginning, to start to figure some of that stuff out, at least what you think is going to be, and then use the Facebook page as tests to see if what your assumptions are correct. And you could do it for that.
Awesome.
But I would, as soon as possible, I would get, you know, you want to move to your own website. Once it seems like, all right, this is a real thing, it's going to be a real viable business, then, you know, you want to get to the website.
Well, and Peter, another option, we were actually talking about this in my group, is it depends on the type of business. Once again, is it Chasen? Yeah. Okay. Chason. Okay. But, you know, I know that there was a poet or an artist or something in here, but another thing that I've actually started getting into, I started this in January, is Patreon. And one nice thing about Patreon, so it's mostly for like artists, writers, things like that. But what you do, so I'm a psychic, and so I do a daily draw, I post it, and Patreon has made my life so much easier because it connects, it shoots out whatever I post onto Patreon. It shoots it out to all of my social media accounts all instantaneously, and there's different levels, so it's subscription based, and so I have, you know, that I post publicly some things, and then other things people have to get a subscription to get, like my newsletter and some because I do weekly videos that they need to access that. So that might be another option that people that are more like in the creative type things might benefit from.
Yeah, I mean, again, that's kind of your business model, you know, going back to strategy. Like, what am I trying to build here, and how am I solving these problems? And so maybe it's a membership subscription that people pay a monthly membership to get access to specific content. So you kind of have your teaser content, then you have your core content that people get inside a paywall to have access to that. So, yep, absolutely. Cross-posting, Brianna's asking about cross-posting. Again, go back to your strategy. You know, is that where your target market is? Do you have those profiles set up? And you've got to, you know, get content across them anyway. Then you definitely can. But, you know, how you post to Facebook and how you post to Instagram, even though they're very connected platforms, can be very different, right? When you start looking at using hashtags and how those work, depending on your content, it may not make sense to cross post. So really evaluate the content and what the content is, and is it going to engage that audience on that platform? Then yeah, look at doing that. But again, look at it closely, evaluate it, see, make sure that it makes sense. Good question. What else?
So my boyfriend and I, we're both magicians also, and I'm a poet. But we've been looking at different websites, and we've noticed, like, for example, there's one website, and it's a beautiful website. It's gorgeous, it's professional, but it doesn't necessarily look like it's going to sell. And then there's another website, a magician, not so gorgeous, but like it just takes you almost like right through the funnel to get you to buy a ticket to a show. And we're just kind of like going back and forth on that and stuff. And trying
as far
to
as which one to choose.
Well, I mean, we want to obviously choose like the one that makes you want to buy right away, but we also want to like, and I was kind of looking at my website to see, I know you looked at it before, like if it's professional enough for people to realize I have value, or, I mean, I almost want to show you the two websites that we looked at that we were discussing, but it's just kind of like, I really want to make sure that my website, people understand what they're getting and it makes them go, yes, I want to buy. And I'm almost wondering if I should get rid of the comments at the bottom because that's so old school, and just have it more modern, but not be a one pager because I find those to be annoying. But I don't know. I want to know if my website really gets people to want to buy. I don't know. Gets people to want to buy.
Yeah, so some of that is going back to strategy. I would look at, like you said, it looks like you've been looking at some competitor websites or some similar websites to get some idea of what that looks like, to, you know, get a better understanding of that. Again, invest time in your website. You own that. Like, that's your asset. Don't be afraid to change it, to test things, to do new things. You know, create a new page on it, and, you know, get 3 friends and say, hey, you 3 friends, I want you to sit down and look at this page and tell me what you see and how easy it is to navigate. Like, get on Zoom and have them go through it and have them actually describe what they're seeing and what it seems like to them. So, you know, test and get feedback on that to do that. So it's hard for us sometimes when it's our thing to be very objective about it. And so you can easily do some testing like that. It's basically user testing Get a couple of friends on Zoom, tell them you'll buy them lunch or whatever, and, have them walk through it, but have them speak out loud what they're seeing and how they're navigating and what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. So you can take that and make adjustments to it.
Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm. Good questions. What else? Anything else? Good ideas come up in your discussions? Good success stories?
Hey, Peter, one thing we talked about in our group was Facebook groups. I don't know if you want to touch base on that.
Great. Yeah. Facebook groups is a great idea. I mean, there's a lot of different ways you can create some strategy around this in building a group that's, who is your target market? If you know who your target market is, can you build a group around that target market and create that kind of engagement in a group where there's discussions happening within that group and people are answering each other's questions, and you're creating more of a community versus just, trying to market and advertise. And so can you help solve a bigger problem by putting that group together? But by the fact that you're the one that created the group, and when people have the next level or next step of challenge that you have a solution for, then you're able to be the one that can answer that for them and help take them to the next level. But Facebook groups, Facebook loves the groups. Facebook really is promoting the groups. Many people have found much greater success building groups than building a page even. So again, go back to your strategy, think about your target market, think about the problem that you solve, and maybe a Facebook group is a great way to build a specific audience that you can work with to be able to reach. But groups are a great tool and great way to use Facebook for sure.
Although I think that some groups actually don't want you to be promoting your own business on there.
Yeah.
So I think it depends on the
group and how you set it up. Some groups are very anti-promotion in the group. So, but that doesn't mean you can't be engaging in that group and answer questions and interact with people. And they click and go to your profile and see who you are and private message you. Right. So your expertise and your engagement is how you're selling, if you will. You're not directly promoting your product or service. So you're being actually social and helpful and helping people out. It's a great thing to look for groups. So if you want to I need to get more research or find out what's going on, there's a group for everything on Facebook. A group for everything. Research those groups, join some groups, get in there and see what they're talking about. See what's engaging people. You want to understand better how to use Facebook, join some groups and engage with it a little bit and see what they're doing and learn more about it for sure.
I know I've been talking a lot today. I apologize. One thing that I, just because of COVID and all of the different events that closed down, I stopped using a lot of the different things because I would just, whenever I would go to an event, I would do an Instagram or I do a whatever's. And so then I'm just like, well, I don't know what to say because I'm not going anywhere. So I'm hoping that, as things start opening up, and I do have events this fall, that I will get an increase in the obviously posts as well as followers. Yep. So yeah, COVID definitely cut back on how much I got as far as that goes.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. I've been people are getting out more, been doing a lot more in-person things, a lot more that's going to continue over the summer. So for anybody that's used to doing events and that was part of how you promoted and built your business, it's going to be good to have that back again to be able to have that opportunity for sure. Absolutely. Other questions, challenges, successes?
So the audience insight tool is going away. Do you think that in the business suite, it's still going to be able to see other audiences or just your audience?
That's a really great question. I don't have an answer for that specifically at the moment. So stay tuned. We'll find out what Facebook is going to always try to be providing tools and ways for us to be able to, understand our audiences and how to market better. So even though that particular tool may not be there, there's going to be other ways to research and find information that we need. What that looks like, I don't know yet. We'll see, but there's always different ways to get at the data and the information, even if that particular audience insight tool is not available. It might be harder, but there's ways to do it. Good question. Well, John, I think we might have covered it here.
Maybe so. Well, folks, thank you so much. Yeah, we are coming up on time, so maybe we should wrap it up. As I mentioned at the outset, I'm going to compile a video and send it to everybody via email, so you'll be able to review these answers and and hopefully take this and work on your social media and your digital marketing strategy to make some progress. So thanks again for coming out and being part of the workshop today. Thank you, Peter, as always, for putting on a great show. Thanks to our sponsors.
Thank you,
yeah, Brighton Economic Development and the Greater Brighton Chamber of Commerce. Thank you for sponsoring this. And remember, you can always visit us at northmetrosbdc.com and book a free consulting appointment or check out our schedule of upcoming programs like this one that we offer at very, very low cost or free whenever we can. So thanks so much.
Thank you both.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Thanks for doing this.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Take care. Great presentation.